Correct.
Great. I am Joe Wappelhorst, the Executive Director of SIRE. So happy to join you this morning and update you to the best of our ability of
I lost it.
Where we're at, where we're progressing.
Okay.
How we're progressing with summer plans and into the fall. So we will have a question period at the end. You can also use the chat feature if you want to ask questions. I'll monitor those as we go. So let's get started. Helen's going to kind of take you through where we have been, and we'll go from there. So Helen, you want to take over?
Absolutely. Good morning to everybody that I know and everybody I don't know. My name's Helen Evans. I'm the site manager and equine manager out at the Richmond site. We're just going to give you a little rundown on what we're doing and primarily what we're doing with the horses right now. So the horses that were based at Hockley have been resituated, and half the herd has gone over to the spring site and half of the remaining herd has gone over to the Fort Bend site. So you will be seeing some new heads when you get back out there. During this downtime, initially we let them have a few weeks off to kind of catch their breath and recoup, and now we want to make sure that we're maintaining their fitness so that when we suddenly get the green light that we can go, then everybody's fit to ride. So we are schooling them under saddle, taking them out for trail rides, working them with them in hand, desensitizing. You all know that's an ongoing process and we like to throw that in as much as we can. So lots to be done with the horses on the riding and training side of things. It's incredibly hot right now, so we are also doing a lot of bathing, a lot of clipping, and obviously CJ at 1 o'clock is going to be getting a mini mane makeover. So if you can join us for that, that will be great. We really, really miss your input on the horses, and I can say that for everybody. We realize, although we did realize, we really realize now how much you do for just like picking out feet, filling up fly spray bottles, checking for swellings on legs and fly bites and as such. So we're doing all that, and all of the horses are doing very well, and they'll be ready to see you without a doubt.
Excellent. And then moving on to other things that we've been doing while during our quarantine, we've been lots of special projects, lots of like at spring we put in a new wash area for the horses. We've got little projects going on cleaning. Oh my gosh, we've cleaned out so many closets and different rooms, brush buckets. We did a saddle fitting for all of our horses and saddles, and we're able to get rid of the saddles that didn't fit properly, adjusted stirrups as far as replacing any of the stirrup leathers. So it's been a very busy quarantine for us. I know Helen and her team are busy with projects as well. So it's been a challenge. It's been hot, like Helen said, but we've gotten a lot done.
Absolutely. One of the things that we have run with, because it's definitely the in thing right now, is to do the Zoom calls, and we're doing them mainly to cover the horses, but it's also a great way to see the riders, see the volunteers, and for you guys to stay in touch with us and the horses. We miss you greatly, so it's really lovely to see your faces out there. We're doing various calls, so sometimes it will just be, hey, we're in the barn, let's look at who's in the barn aisle and show people who's in the paddocks close to the barn and who's come in and standing under the fan for the day, which one's the lucky one getting that done. We also show them how to bathe the horse, clipping, and I know Shane has been working doing lunging demonstrations, covering feeding, what we feed the horses and why we feed it. They all need various different feeds. Amanda has been working hard on some lesson plans which have gone out to some of the riders that we feel it's appropriate for on parts of the horse and parts of the tack, and so there's many things we can cover. So if you ever see the emails, please do jump on the Zoom calls, because we love to see you.
Excellent. All right.
And then Joe is
Yeah.
I think the next one.
Yeah.
All right.
So just quickly over where we're at, because I know a lot of emails have gone out, a lot of information's gone out. We did have to, unfortunately, for the overall organization, the COVID quarantine really financially hit us at a very difficult time in the middle of riding season. So income was stopped abruptly because tuition was no longer being collected, and it hit months before our annual gala. So we were had to make the decision to lay off some of our employees. We have since received the Payroll Protection Program loan, and all those employees have been invited back to get to work. So we're hopeful for that. I know some may have already made other plans, but everybody who had been laid off has been offered a role back at SIRE, and many of them are already, some of them are on this call, so we're happy to have them back as well. And we're going to continue to do that as best we can through the summer and into the fall. So we're excited not only to get volunteers back on campus, but to get some of our staff back. So very happy about that. We have also, so kind of just where we're at, quick overview, March through May, nothing, no people were allowed on campus except our essential staff, feeding horses and taking care of projects. In June, we're going to open a pilot program. It's not going to be a full summer session. It's going to be at the spring site with a limited number of riders. We'll talk about that next. August, we will take that month to review what we learned in the pilot program, trying to work under new policies and protocols and procedures. And so that right after Labor Day, if everything keeps going the way it looks like, and the government's, our officials say yes and the CDC says yes, then we plan to kick off a full semester right after Labor Day in September. So we're excited to get there, and I think Shane is going to talk a little bit about the summer session.
Let me unmute. Okay, we're going to do a summer pilot program at spring. And part of why we chose spring, we can have a controlled group of riders. It's SIRE owned property, and as a lot of you know, the Richmond site, it's not property that we own. So we don't have the flexibility to change things or adjust things as quickly as we can on our own property. So that's why we chose spring. Plus, Richmond is not allowing anyone on property unless they've been approved, just because of the quarantine and everything that's going on there. And really, questions that you have about that, I don't want to answer. I'll let Helen answer those, or Joe. But spring, let's move on to our summer and what it's going to look like. Summer will be a limited number of riders. It's going to be classes that are smaller. We really want to follow guidelines and make sure we are as safe as possible while allowing as many riders as we can to ride safely. It's really going to be how many volunteers are needed in a class. So if a rider requires more hands-on help, 3 volunteers, then we really need to look at that rider individually and decide if that will be a good fit for this summer pilot program. So we're in the process of doing that right now. We're talking to really the spring volunteers and the riders that we've talked to come back. If you are not a spring volunteer, but would like to volunteer at our site just for the summer session, go ahead and reach out to me. Our contact information is at the end. We're going to take temperatures on everybody that comes onto our property. We will definitely allow people to wear masks, but it's optional. We've all tried to wear masks out here in the heat and work and ride, and it is really difficult. So masks will be optional. We sent out an email earlier to all of our riders. We had a Zoom call about helmets, and that was really, we felt if we could get each rider to purchase their own helmet, that would avoid having to clean and reuse helmets every day like we normally do. So that was sent out, and hopefully everyone who wanted to buy a helmet was able to. Unfortunately, like everything else, helmets are out of stock everywhere because they're not manufacturing them. The actual companies have closed until they can come back safely. So that was something I never thought could happen, but here we are. So our helmets are good. We can use them. We will have a cleaning station set up for the helmets so we can wash them before use and after use. But if someone has their own helmet, that is best. So we want to make sure everyone knows they have to wear a helmet when they're riding. There's no way to get around that. However, they can still use our helmet or they can purchase their own. And we sent out information about that so they can know where to go purchase them or purchase them online. All right. And then,
Okay.
yeah, we'll let Helen talk.
So once spring has completed their summer session, all the staff are going to get together and review what went well in the summer, what they would like to change and amend, what they need to add, what was successful and what wasn't. We currently have staff that are reviewing all of our policies, procedures, forms, handbooks to reflect the pandemic that we're in now and how we need to move forward to reflect this so we cover everything correctly. We will keep you all updated either via email or Zoom. Some people love the Zoom and some people prefer the email, so I imagine be going out both ways. With regarding to Fort Bend, Richmond reopening, at the moment I don't have any information. As you all know, we're governed by the state, and the governor of Texas is slowly beginning to open Texas up. In fact, it's ramping up fairly quickly, but at the moment Richmond State is still locked down. They still don't have full staffing. Parents and family are not allowed on campus to visit their relatives. So I think we're still in the fairly early stages of any sign of reopening, which is why realistically we've said no summer schedule here, and hopefully come fall, come September, we will be up and running and ready to go.
Excellent.
Great.
All right.
I would like to add, because this came out in the questionnaires, and thank you guys very much for answering those surveys. They were very helpful in making the decisions we made for the summer. There was a question in the volunteer section that we kind of copied in from the rider section about having your helmet. That was meant for riders. We're not requiring volunteers to ride helmets unless you're on a horse. So I know that was one of the biggest comments that we got through that was, why do volunteers need to buy helmets? And it's not a requirement for volunteers. That was a carryover. But I am open. If you have a question, our contact information is at the bottom, and you can always call or email us. But if you have a question now, feel free to unmute yourself, and we'll do our best to answer the questions as they come along.
Hi, this is Candy.
Hey, Candy.
Hey, man, miss you guys.
Oh, we miss you too.
For the summer program, the pilot program in spring, are the riders that were at Fort Bend likely to go and participate in that program?
I'll let you answer that one, Shayna.
Well, we are working on that. I think if we're able to put together a class, and I think we'll start the summer with the spring riders and see how it's going that first week. It's really going to depend on how it goes. And then we had discussed one day possibly having the riders come out, but logistically it might not work just because
Right.
they're driving from so far away and the state riders would not be an option.
Right.
So I guess to answer the question quickly, that probably will not happen.
Got it. Okay.
But yes.
And so to volunteer to come and help in the pilot program, you just want us to email you or raise a hand?
Yeah, or yes, my email is below. Definitely, probably best to email me directly, and I can get you in contact with Stephanie, and we would love to have you join us here. And I think it's wonderful to have volunteers who are at one site come over to another just to see the differences and what it's like, and we would love to have you.
Yeah, would love to help.
Good. All right. Are there more questions?
This is Brian Dawson. I'm a volunteer up at Spring occasionally. My wife Ula is as well. And I just
Hi, Brian.
Howdy. I just had some questions regarding, because of the certain types and kind of ease of transmission of COVID-19, even through breath, especially shouting and things of that nature, or presumably exercise like trotting along the side of the horse. I was curious, are there plans to get like portable PA systems that the instructors would be able to use, or are there steps to kind of limit the amount of like trotting and kind of certain activities that are typically part of a session?
That's a good question. So normally, I know, and you haven't been out for a summer session yet, but even on a regular basis, it is so hot that there's so little trotting, and we can definitely, one of the things we'll talk to all of our riders is that there's not a lot of trotting during the summer. So the amount of running or coffee, using a lot of breath, I guess, that's probably not going to be an issue unless the rider does not have any volunteers, and then we would allow them to trot appropriately depending on the class. The portable PA system, we do have them out here. We have speakers. We can look into using that. That's a good idea. And Brian, maybe just because of the nature of your work, you and Ula, maybe I can talk to you offline and let you know more details about what we're planning and get your input on that.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and to kind of tag on to that, one disclaimer we have to make, like all of the easing that's going on, is that's part of the summer program process, is we're doing it for several weeks so we can try different things. But probably the one thing that everybody needs to be cognizant of, because we work with a lot of medically fragile people, is we can't guarantee that you're not going to be exposed with all the precautions that we're putting on. So that's one reason we're trying to ease into this, is while the overwhelming response to the surveys was, yes, we want to come back to ride, we do want to make sure people are safe. We're going to try different things. And it may be different for different riders depending on their fragility and needs. It may come to that in some instances it's better to have a parent or a caregiver as a sidewalker if the rider is very, needs a lot of physical attention or has drooling issues or breathing issues. So that's part of the purpose. And I know that part of the process that Shana is trying to be very cognizant of is start with the easy, I hate to say easiest, but
The riders, right, that need
that
the least amount of
least
support.
Less
attention,
involved.
and then gradually see how we can progress toward more. So yeah, we want, and boy, yeah, if you have expertise in this area, that would be a great help, because we're all going with what we get on right now from the CDC and the governor's office and Harris County. So yeah, thanks, great question. Any other questions, comments? Well, fantastic. Again, we appreciate and thank you for everything you do. Another reason that we want to keep the summer session small is that this is affecting people differently, not just physically and medically, but socially and emotionally. And we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're trying to find volunteers. If you're not ready to come back, we completely support that decision. If it's not the right decision for you, there'll always be a place for you when you feel safe and can come back. So thank you for everything you've done. I cannot express that enough. We are a small staff that relies on you to do anything that happens here at SIRE. So you make it all happen. And feel free to contact me or any of the people on the contact form.